Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday the 20th of March 2022, and in this session we're going to be talking about whatever, so stick around and see what we'll cover. It really depends upon who the audience is and who shows up. Typically we talk about things about blockchain, about cryptocurrencies, about DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, whatever three-letter word comes to mind really. Really depends upon the audience. So let's see what we're going to talk about today. Hello, good evening, welcome.
Well, yeah, nice to meet you.
We run these totally open to everybody. So we talk about whatever people want to talk about.
Yeah.
So if you're a complete novice and you want to learn about some basics, just ask away. If you're an expert and you've got a crypto project that you're running that you want to talk about, then fine with that as well. Get people who like to talk about their NFTs or their DeFi work. All open to everyone really. It's just pitch in and ask away or share knowledge.
Excellent.
So I don't know what's your kind of background or what's your interest?
Just well, obviously I've had long COVID all year. I've been finishing a really tough postgrad degree in CBT, actually, CBT therapist. But so I'm just finishing that because I couldn't do anything. My cousin was nagging me to get into Bitcoin from like January 20. And just after it kind of jumped a bit, and he bought up Ethereum and Bitcoin in sort of December, which is when I, would have been nice if I got in then. But
okay,
so I got in about sort of, just enough to not make any money, and so started with the main ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Didn't really know what I was doing. Bought BNB coin and then sold it quickly. I should have hung on to that.
Okay,
and then kind of moved through, through the kind of good use case coins, then to kind of a few mid-sized, and just kept swapping them out with ever decreasing gains, eventually down to I watched Shiba Inu do incredible things and a few kind of really crappy meme coins, but eventually I did hit a good one, or one that got good gains before it crashed anyway, the Tiger King coin, which I knew was going to make some gains, at the beginning anyway. And it did really well. It did like I caught a 10x and then a 34x.
Wow.
But I didn't cash out. I didn't cash out. So the top of my portfolio was like 82 grand, which was really nice. And I just thought, it's going to another 12x in that million. I'd just hang on, but I didn't cash out. So.
Yep, and then it all collapses and you go, missed out there. Yep.
Yeah, which I said I wasn't going to do, but once you're kind of in that zone, you kind of don't know what to do with yourself, do you? So, so really, I'm just, I've learned a lot. I've learned a hell of a lot actually this year. Especially how to lose money in crypto. And so I've got my plans though. I've got my sort of plans on what to do, and I'm just like thinking what projects to go into. I've got a list of things that I'm thinking of going into, and things like, I've just like, what I did manage to do is invest in a project called it's the tokens that AF in the Metaverse is Nexus World. It's a Singapore-based project.
Okay.
And really good. Looks a really good project. I'm pretty lazy reading white papers, but it does look like they've got their act together. And that did really well. I got it on the pre-sale, and that went from £500 up to 10.5 grand in 3 days.
Okay.
So, but then back down because it's on a vesting schedule. I couldn't sell, but I think it's going to go up again. So that's one of my investments for now. And another one called Outer Ring, which has already done some pretty good things. That's a really nice metaverse.
Okay.
I've got a list of about 20 odd, but I just, I've got it down. It ranges from like kind of, the next Uber, which I think will be a good project. That's called Drive.
Okay.
And there's a few other metaverses.
I think the metaverse is definitely the space to be right now. Oh, hi, Elena. So I say hello, good evening.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello there. Nice to be here again.
Yay. So Elena's one of our regulars these days who is building her knowledge greatly in the crypto space, that kind of thing, on blockchain level as well, if I remember correctly. We were just chatting with Al about getting into crypto and the kind of areas of interest, and he seems to be developing his knowledge at the moment around metaverse type tokens in particular, which I think is the space to be in right now, definitely, if only for the hype, if nothing else. Well, Al, it sounds like you've actually had quite a good journey. That some people, when they first come into crypto, they do incredibly well, and
Yeah.
that is simply through good timing, good fortune. But unfortunately, it makes them think that they're brilliant at it,
Yeah.
and then they don't realise that they're actually not, and they put more and more money in, and then the market turns south and they lose badly. I actually think a great way of getting into crypto is to get into it and lose some money initially, because it makes you realize that you can lose, and then it makes you actually learn and read up about things a little bit more. So I think if you've won some, lost some, then that's a pretty good place to be. And it's always as well, I think crypto's a little bit like fishing. With fishing, it's always, oh, you should have been here yesterday when the fish were here, or you should be here tomorrow when it's going to be better. Exactly the same with crypto. You should have always have bought when you didn't, and you should always have sold when you didn't. It's always a matter of timing. And it's kind of interesting listening to people who come onto these calls, the number of them who've now said, oh, well, just do the opposite of whatever I do, and you'll do really well. And so I'm beginning to wonder now, what we should do is we should have a weekly group where everyone who's of that mind gets together and all agree what it is they're going to get into. And I'm going to do the opposite of it. And one of us is going to do quite well out of it. But yeah, the reality is crypto, like any other open market, is completely unpredictable. Like any other manipulated market, there are people in there who are controlling the market and who do have a good grasp of things, but they don't tell you, and they don't share. And this is where I sometimes warn people about joining like investor groups, where they say, oh yeah, I pay so much per month to be in a Telegram group and I get all the hot tips and all that kind of thing. What they don't realize is that the way that those systems quite often work is you pay so much to be in a Telegram bronze group, which actually means that there's someone else in a silver group who pay more than you, who get to hear what the bronze group are going to be told, and so can buy and sell in advance, knowing the bronze group are going to move in. And then above the silver group will be a gold group who pay even more, and they know what the silver group are going to be, or the bronze group will be told, and the silver group so on. So it's all a bit of a con. So it's all kind of like, there's a lot of manipulation going on with that. And I always say to people with crypto, it's actually really easy. If it looks too good a deal, it is. So be cautious. But it sounds like you're doing a good thing about like looking at white papers, doing a bit of research, that kind of thing.
I mean,
which is good.
I'm kind of lazy, but yeah, I do have a browse and check out like maybe the tokenomics a bit and check the I've got a kind of a I've got the fundamentals of what I should be doing, which I sometimes ignore in terms of rotating the profits into microcaps, using DAP radar, sub counterparts of successful coins, a kind of a good 24-hour volume over $2,000. Market cap of 4 to 10 million, drop or stay will last 7 days, good Twitter activity, that kind of thing, which I sometimes don't always do. I still ape into some crap sometimes, but I should know what I'm doing. I've got my specific notes of what to do. And it's all very, but I had this plan when I made that money on Tiger King and I didn't stick to it. Had I stuck to it, I would have, I've already made my target money. I just upped the goalpost. I should have just sold but it's a good lesson to learn in terms of managing your emotions, isn't it?
Well, exactly right. And the people I see who do quite well in this space are the ones who they come up with a strategy up front. So they'll say things like what point they're going to enter, what point they're going to exit, what their risk appetite is, and that, and then they stick with it, and they stick with it until it stops working. And when it stops working, then they change it. But they are quite rigorous and they are quite disciplined, and that, as you say, removes the emotion out of it. It's no different. It's no different to share trading, where you have to look at things rationally, and you have to keep the emotions out, and you also have to accept you don't have to win every trade. You just have to win enough trades to end up ahead, type thing. Where it's not. I mean, I'm not active in the trading space at the moment. I just take an interest mainly in the technology layer that sits beneath the crypto, so that the blockchain level really of what's going on there. And I run training courses in blockchain and crypto now. And I say to people, you know, I'm not a day trader. I'm not active in that space. And my kind of semi-joking but serious thing as well about taking advice from other people is the only people to listen to in terms of recommendations on either coins or approaches are people who've got at least 3 things.
Yeah.
And those 3 things is that they've got their own private island, which they've bought as a result of cryptocurrency purchases, that they've got their own yacht with a helicopter,
yeah.
and that they've got their own executive jet.
Right.
If they've got those 3 things through crypto trading, then listen to them, because they're worth going in. Because the number of people, you know, who've done really well, and I've known some people who've made like over $1 million in crypto, but they've done it purely because they've happened to time the market right, and that was good fortune. It's not skill. And this is why it's interesting at the moment, with the market being quite depressed, a lot of people have gone very quiet. You might notice it, that the amount of Twitter and YouTube activity of people going how good they are at crypto, that the noise increases when Bitcoin is going up in price, and it goes quiet when Bitcoin is coming down in price. And that's simply because in a rising market, everyone can do well.
Yeah.
And in a rising market, everyone thinks they're good at it. So anyway, that's my kind of general advice I offer to people.
Yeah, thank you. Really good advice. No, really good advice. Take
and
out.
Yeah,
Take the emotion out. Sorry. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing about the 3 things as well, about like the yacht, the island, and the airplane, is I'm also first to admit I don't own any of those, and therefore, by my very own logic, you should completely ignore anything I suggest. So we'll see where that goes. So you're looking at stuff in the metaverse at the moment in particular. Anything that excites you?
Yeah, well, I've got a list. I need to go through it again. I had an even bigger list and I've refined it a bit. So yeah, Affin looks like a really good project. It's basically geomapped as well. So, or it's going to be geomapped. So you'll be able to, you know, buy the Affin token. And then when you go to Nexus World, you can buy the little buddies, which are the creatures, which will be tradable. And then you can buy your kind of, you know, your polygon, which has been mapped somewhere on the world, because it's a mixed reality game. So at the moment, I'm trying to think about, well, you know, and obviously there's going to be some discussion around where is going to be the best place to buy your land, because it's going to want to have a high footfall, but also you want to build, you know, you're going to build your virtual building or whatever on it. It's like, where would it be? Would it be in a shopping center? Would it be high street? You know, would it be in a park? You know, but you want it to have a kind of all year round footfall that's kind of safe, you know, for kids or whatever to play. You know, where is that going to, and what country as well? Because it's a token that's not sold in America. So you know, some guy was saying he bought some on a strip in Magaluf or somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Somewhere like that, and you'll have a lot of football there. But is someone going to play a virtual reality game on holiday? Maybe not. So it's hard to figure out, you know, where is the hotspot going to be. OVR was one that came out that first did geomapping, and I looked at what was for sale. And if you go down to Soho, right centre of London, you know, those for football, all of the main bars, like the corner bars, had already been bought. So they're already hip to that. So in the future, when people start building stuff on that particular world, which I'm not sure what it really is going to be at the moment, but it's going to be great for, you know, VR, 3D advertising, whatever. Think like that shark in Back to the Future 2. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be that kind of thing. You've got the glasses. That's what we're looking at.
Well, we're seeing it already with. I'm trying to remember who made a big announcement the other day. Pokemon's only going, but there's I think there was a big football team or NFL team or something who just announced, and that they've effectively, I think they've built their own stadium in a crypto platform, and now they're doing sponsorship deals. It's like, so I find it fascinating how the world of blockchain and crypto keeps replicating things that you do in the real world.
Yeah.
So now not only do you have virtual art galleries with virtual art and NFTs in them, but you've now got things like replicated football stadiums where there's computer games being played within these virtual stadiums, but the virtual stadiums have got virtual billboards up with adverts by like Nike and Adidas and that kind of thing, I believe. And it's like, that is just kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The other thing to watch out for as well is I keep trying to remind people that we typically have a Western mindset about things going on. And in actual fact, if you look at South Korea, for example, the new president of South Korea just made, he is pro-crypto. And South Korea is already very crypto savvy.
Yeah.
So a fairly high percentage of the population have got crypto wallets.
Yeah.
They're very much into the crypto space. Samsung, who are based in South Korea, they've launched a TV set that has an embedded NFT viewing capability.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so you kind of go, oh, that's interesting. That's a hardware manufacturer who's thinking about this crypto space. But what it means is that we keep thinking about things like, you know, London, Paris, Amsterdam, New York and that as being venues for metaverse. But in actual fact, it's going to be Asia and that where there's massive stuff going on already.
Yeah. Yeah, I did think of that in one of the forums. Someone was talking about Korea, obviously, because they are more tech savvy. So I was thinking, well, if you're going to go, where, you know, what part of that city or country would you buy in? Yeah, I think I would definitely start over there, somewhere like Korea, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia. I think it'd be a really good place to buy.
Yeah. And it's when you look at, again, you look at what's going on in the real world and the virtual world, you take a look at the regulators in financial services around the world. And, you know, MAS, so that's the Monetary Authority of Singapore, are very crypto savvy, very supportive. There's a great ecosystem in the crypto world in Singapore, and in Malaysia, it's growing as well. Tokyo, I went there a couple of years ago and it just turned up to a crypto event one night. And it was like, wow, you know, it's this place with hundreds of people in it. Bizarrely, about a third of them were Westerners who were like expats or whatever. But the other 2/3 were all, you know, Japanese people totally into crypto. And this was listening to ICO pitches and STO pitches and mining opportunities. And it kind of really wakes you up type thing. So they were doing like dual language talks on crypto mining in Mongolia, for example. And you go, wow, wouldn't really, I know there's a lot of crypto mining goes on in Mongolia, but it's the very fact that you're at a crypto event where they're speaking in Japanese about this stuff, and then suddenly you'll hear a word or two that you recognize, you know, like crypto mining, because there's not a Japanese equivalent of that type of thing. But you look at the whole market, and the whole of Asia has really bought into crypto in a big way. Then you look at Latin America or South America, as well as the obvious one of El Salvador, where, you know, Bitcoin is legal tender.
Yeah.
But you've also got crypto being used as a safe harbor in the likes of Venezuela, where because of their economy not being a good state, so that the people have got into it. Brazil has got a growing market as well. Yeah. In fact, it's interesting. I think it was Andreas Antonopoulos, who is one of probably the founding fathers in the crypto space and lectures a lot about this stuff. And he was talking about, I think it was in 2019, when he was talking about the crypto winter as it was being described at that stage. And he said, hey, come to South America, there's no winter here, because there's loads of trading going on, loads of interest, that kind of thing. So, yeah, so I find it fascinating looking at what's going on around the world. You got the likes of India. India was about to make an announcement. The government was about to regulate in a supportive way cryptocurrency. Now, RBI, which is the Reserve Bank of India, which is the equivalent of the Bank of England, really, and the regulator as well, are now going against crypto. So, you know, what is that going to do? Because India is a big user of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
One of the biggest marketplaces in cryptos there. So, yeah, I find it fascinating. So, with you being into this for like a year or so now, are there any questions or anything that you're still learning about?
Yeah, what am I learning about? So, well, like I'm thinking about, obviously I think technical, I'm not a day trader, let me just say that, you know, I think when everyone starts, they start panic selling and buying because they think they can be a day trader, but it's just a really stressful way to lose money, isn't it, day trading? I'm not very technical either. You know, it interests me to a point, but you know, I'm not, I think to make money in that kind of field, you have to have a lot of money, like 100,000, where you're going to make sort of like I don't know, a 5% gain in a day, and then you can, you know, take that off the top or whatever. Plus you need to be, you know, acutely aware of the, you know, of social events happening. So you're going to be on Twitter all the time and know how to read that into how that's going to affect the market, and then compare that with technical analysis as well, which is well beyond me. So I think I would be more of a kind of fundamental investor, which is why I like the metaverse stuff, because you know, it's kind of, you know, you can see the product, can't you? You know, you can see it developed, you know, and quite simply, I'll look at it, and if I like, obviously, if it's got a good team and it's got a good tokenomics, and I like the game, you know, I like the look of it, and and I'm not a gamer. I mean, you know, I've got friends who are gamers, and they've got every game there is, and I've never been into gamers, but the fact you can do play to earn now and gamify, you know, decentralized finance is amazing. All these NFTs you're going to be able to buy, and you know, they've even thought of like smart NFTs now, where that NFT will have different qualities. After, let's say you have a sword and you've killed 100 orcs or whatever with it, and it's worth more, you know, so they're going to have NFTs that evolve. That really interests me, and the land aspects of virtual real estate. So it's kind of got everything that interests me as well in there. So, you know, DeFi on its own, okay, some really interesting, creative things happening, really crazy ways to make money, and which can work or not. Of course, lots of rug pulls. But I think with the metaverse, at least you've got something that's kind of fun and immersive, and it's perhaps a little bit more, or definitely more fun and a bit more, you know, interesting to kind of make money that way. And it's just such a huge market as well, isn't it, the game market? So,
well, I think that's the other thing about the metaverse, that what it allows is that you're bringing together two very sizable technical communities. You're bringing together the crypto community, which is relatively young and emerging, and you've got the gaming community, who's actually very well established now and have been using concepts, you know, which aren't cryptocurrency but behave like them in many, many ways for many years. So there was a game years ago, is it Second Life? Where there was a token that you could buy and sell called the Linden coin. So that was effectively a cryptocurrency, you know, or certainly a digital currency in the way it worked. You know, you could buy and sell it, you could use it to buy land, all that kind of thing. Now you've got Roblox. You know, I've got kids who play Roblox, and these days, you know, if they want a present or something for their birthday, but they want Robux, so they want Roblox coins that allow them to buy things, as you say, like swords or avatars or things that their avatars can wear and that kind of thing. So you've got the gaming community who are familiar with online money, you know, digital currency and whatever, without it being connected to pounds and dollars. They're very savvy, they're very technical, and it links in really nicely. So it's a natural bringing together of the two communities. And I think it's been a great way of growing the crypto community, instead of trying to go for the traditional people who are in the fiat world. Because you see it, that the people who are in the fiat world, when you start talking about public and private keys and crypto wallets, and they start glazing over, and you know, well, you know, is there a branch I can go to speak to? No, it's all online. You know, and they don't like being online and that. Whereas a gamer, you know, I'll go on to Discord. You know, I'll find it out, and they're very good at finding stuff out for themselves. So I think it's really good.
There's a few other kind of outliers I've got. One of them is really interesting. It's called Drife, D-R-I-F-E, which is a decentralized version of Uber. Which is actually really, I haven't got any money to invest right now, but it's actually
does that
Indian.
work?
Right, I'm just pulling it up now. You'll have to bear with me. I do my research and I forget what I look at so many coins that I have to come back to it. So let's have a look at the website here. So I think it's an Indian company, interestingly enough. And so what is it they're saying? So trustlessness by leveraging programmable, automated, self-executing smart contracts, obviously. So smart contracts are used for fair negotiations, governance managed, stake-based services and privileges. So transparency and fair computation, dynamic pricing and commissionless payment transfers. Platform is governed by a DAO where everyone can participate in decision-making by putting forth proposals. Tokenized economy, so it's got its own utility tokens. Stable tokens used for on-chain transfers. You can do staking apparently.
But how does that link to the car driving side of things?
Well, I think you've got the app, obviously.
Okay.
You get the app and basically it will then get you your toll. And I guess there's going to be some sort of rating on you as well, isn't there? Which is, obviously with the trustless technology. And then, so instead of it being a centralized team like Uber, which a lot of drivers are not happy with, are they? Because they're not getting paid well. It puts the, it's decentralized. So it's pretty much the same thing, but allows the drivers a bit more of a fair share of how it works. I can't go into specifics about everything, but yeah, just, everything decentralized is, a lot of things are going to be better, aren't they, if they are decentralized, but it's really down in price at the moment. So I think if I had anything, I think it's the next thing I want to put some money into. So it could be potentially very big.
Because that is interesting, as you say, the whole decentralized aspect and allowing the drivers to be more involved in actually getting benefits out of it. So I found it fascinating when I've been on business in India, and when I first went out there, I was using Uber, and all the locals said, "Oh, why do you use Uber?" We use one called Ola, and Ola's now in the UK as well, but it wasn't a few years ago. And Ola's kind of a competitor to Uber. And I said, well, what's the difference between the two? And they said, oh, Ola taxis arrive far faster, when you order one, which I found mind blowing because most Ubers took about 5 minutes to arrive.
Yeah, pretty quick.
So it's like, so what you're saying is that this is going to take 3 minutes to arrive instead of 5 minutes to arrive. And in reality, it's probably the same driver. He's just got an Ola phone and an Uber phone up, and he's looking at both of them. So if you say with Drive, that's like a decentralized version where the driver's more engaged themselves, that could be a very attractive proposition. Because I still think that when we end up with driverless vehicles, I think that's the ultimate game plan for Uber, that they're going to have driverless vehicles that will be like DAO-like, in that they'll be autonomous, and it'll be the vehicle that negotiates the price and everything like that by itself. So maybe Drive's paving the way for it. I'll check that one out, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a good project. And another thing as well is with everyone's having driverless cars as well, one of the things I think it might be Elon Musk said was, you'll be able to hire your car out, won't you, in your spare time as a taxi?
Well, I've done some stuff in the UK where we were looking at driverless vehicles, and that the motor industry gets it, that once you've got driverless vehicles, the whole ownership of cars completely changes, because you no longer need to own a car. All a car provides you with is the ability to be in a different place at a particular time. So it's a bit like how Black & Decker years ago, the story goes, Black & Decker did a load of research to work out what products do Black & Decker sell versus what products do Black & Decker customers buy. And so Black & Decker said, well, we sell drills. And Black & Decker customers, they discovered, bought the ability to have holes where they need them, which you have to kind of think about that for a minute and go, what? And it's like, when I buy a drill, I haven't bought it because I want a drill. I've bought it because I want to have a hole just there. And the way to do that is with, and it's the same with cars. You don't own a car to own a car. You own a car in order to be somewhere else when you want to be somewhere else. So motor manufacturers already realize this, and they're already shifting away from the idea that they make cars that people buy to what they've called mobility as a service. And this is the whole concept, and Uber's the beginning of it, but it'll go even further, where you won't need to own a car. because there'll just be a driverless vehicle arrive. You'll get your mobile phone, and just like an
Yeah.
Uber, you'll call it up, and it'll take you to wherever you need to be, which means all of a sudden you don't have to worry about insurance or looking after the car or maintenance or anything like that, or the cost of buying one. You'll just hop in this pod or this car, and it'll take you to where you're going, and it'll drop you off, and then it'll go and find another customer or whatever. The reason the motor manufacturers are taking a close interest in this is to realize how many cars we don't need. And it's really easy to work that out. Go outside tomorrow and have a look at how many cars are parked in car parks, right? And any car that's in a car park is not needed.
Yeah, good point.
But by the virtue of the fact it's parked, it's only the cars that are moving that are needed. So motor manufacturers realize that they're only going to need to produce probably about 1/10 the number of cars they make at the moment once we go driverless. So that is going to be massive impact. And the Bank of England's been looking at this in the UK around the impact on the economy, because that means motor manufacturers, won't be making anywhere near so many cars. That means the sale of secondhand parts, the maintenance, that whole industry totally changes. So this is where I think cryptocurrency is linking into that as being a means of payments and the ability. I mean, it was actually, I've forgotten the name of the company now. One of the guys who was involved in Polkadot, I think, or the DAO, did a project where effectively you use crypto to unlock a vehicle. Slock it. That's it. Slockit's the company, I think it's called. And the idea is that you use your crypto wallet to gain access to a vehicle. And then, the vehicle, like an Uber or a driverless vehicle, takes you to your journey. And then you get out the vehicle and it automatically charges for the fare and automatically locks the car. And the same concept applies to like hotel rooms. You think about if you stay in like a travel lodge or a Formula 17 or wherever they are these days, there's no one on the desk anymore. You self-check-in, you're issued with a card, and that gives you access to the room. There's no reason why all of that can't go away, and it can't be loaded on a mobile app or a wallet.
Yeah.
So you can see the way these things are gradually changing.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's what they said about the Internet 3.0, isn't it? That people will be using it without realizing they're using it. The Internet of Things, isn't it?
Yep.
Internet of money. So it's good to get in now before, because people don't understand it. It's complex, but it's a bigger shift as when they first started using the internet. Isn't it? It's the internet. It's the third iteration now.
That's right. And it's where I say as well, because my job during the day is as an emerging technology consultant. And I say to people, like, if I do my job right, you'll never know what technology is, because you don't need to.
Yeah.
So I do some work in the insurance sector, and there's one company I'm an advisor to who use blockchain to underpin the policy administration system.
Okay.
But you don't know it's blockchain, and you don't need to. Or rather, it's blockchain based. It's not pure blockchain. But you shouldn't need to know what technology it is you're using. So if you're staying in a hotel and you've got a NFC enabled mobile phone that gives you access to the room, and it automatically charges you when you go into the room and all this kind of stuff, you don't need to know what the tech is behind it. And if we can use crypto to do that, all the better. Fascinating stuff. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It's just kind of bewildering, isn't it? Trying to think of what to invest in. And there's one called I mentioned smart NFTs earlier. One's called Altura, Altura. I'll send you all these stuff. Ones it talks about, so you can look at. But this is an infrastructure for the future of kind of in-game NFTs. And this is where they talked about smart NFTs, those NFTs that have got the capacity to retain. Evolve and retain those changes, so adding in value, which is just, I don't even know how they thought of that.
I was going to say, do you know how that works then?
Let me have a look. I'm not a techie, so I really have to.
I think that's the thing, that most people in crypto aren't techies, but end up becoming quite technical by the very nature of learning about this stuff. I don't know. Elisa, is that what you found, that you've ended up developing more and more technical knowledge around these things? Elena?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I consider myself not a techie person at all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just keep learning a little bit day by day.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. I think you must be quite an expert by now then, if you're learning a little bit each day.
I have my notes.
So I like the fact that you're writing it.
Check them off screen. Yeah, that's an old-fashioned way, I know, but as I write with my hand, I kind of memorize it straight away. So it's slow, but it's only slow while I'm doing it, and then I have the information.
But it's meant to be a really good way of getting concepts into your mind and staying in your brain, isn't it? That if you write things down, you tend to remember and recall them better. So that's good. I still think that the nice thing about writing things down is that it's virus proof. You know, your pieces of paper don't get hacked, not so easily stolen, not so easily destroyed unless a child pours water on them or something. Your notebook doesn't run out of power. You know, so you don't have to worry about having a flat battery. I had it the other day. I was running. It's funny. It was a technology event where we were talking about new and emerging technologies, and all of a sudden I had a situation where my screen started going darker, and it's like, oh, good example of technology is make sure that your power lead is actually plugged into your laptop when you're giving a presentation. And I managed to make light of it, but yeah, at least with a notepad, you don't run out of power. So that's good.
No, and it's, well, even though we all use screens, laptops, our smartphones every day, there is still a difference between reading something of a screen or from a paper book, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's absolutely it. And it comes back again that there is something where you definitely retain things better if you write them down. So I think that's good. Okay, yeah. So Al, did you manage to find the details on the thing you were looking at?
I looked and there was no technical details online about how it works. I went to the website, but I did turn up another one, which I think you would like.
Okay.
Have you heard of HoloRide? Have you heard of that one? This is one I've just heard about.
HoloRide.
Yeah, this is like, I love this, the idea of this, because, you know, you got kids in the back of the car, it's a 2-hour journey, they're getting bored. What you do is they put on the virtual reality headset and it maps the world around them, like the movement of the car, but then it turns basically your car into a moving theme park. So it will map the crossing and the traffic lights, but then it turns it into this like cartoon world of whatever they're looking at. So it's really interesting mixed reality, but you can't see reality anymore, but you're just turning the back seat into an entertainment space, basically, and really like perfectly synchronized journey through virtual worlds, whatever kind of theme you want. I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be a really good one to invest in. Who doesn't want to keep the kids entertained, you know, while they're on the way to, you know, wherever, especially in somewhere like America where it takes you 4 hours to get anywhere.
It's quite funny, isn't it, that parents will use things like that to keep the kids occupied as they drive them to a theme park.
Yeah, to occupy them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Alton Towers and the various theme park operators, is it Camelot? I think it is. Who are quite big in this space. They've been doing lots of research into using VR headsets, and they're actually using them, funnily enough, the way you describe, but not for the journey, but for actually when you're on the ride. So you'll put a VR headset on, and on the ride, you're then in VR, but on the ride, so you're getting the physical sensations, the movement, and it allows them to overlay things like dinosaurs coming towards you or aliens coming towards you or whatever. They've been doing loads of research into that whole totally immersive experience. because they've got the challenge at the moment, if I understand correctly, the two big problems with it are firstly the fact that you've got headsets that become quite sweaty after a while. So what do you do with keeping them clean and changing them for the next customer, and that kind of thing? And also it tends to induce nausea. And with most people, I think the nausea starts kicking in after about 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to work out how to time the rides and how to time the experiences, so that they don't start making people sick. But I find it fascinating because I think games, good computer games, irrespective of VR, good computer games are addictive anyway. Even if it's something relatively simple, sometimes we all end up just having one more game of something, so it's quite addictive. VR, I've tried Oculus Rift and a few other headsets, and that is like taking a drug. It's like it plugs into something in a different part of your brain. It's a weird experience. And so when you link together a computer game which is addictive and a VR experience which is like being on drugs, I think kids are going to disappear. I think they're just going to go into this VR world and they're not going to come out.
Yeah.
So again, if you can link that in with the metaverse, and it really is it Ready Player One, Ready Player Two, the computer, the movie with the kids who put VR headsets on, VR.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much there. So amazing stuff.
Yeah, there's an argument or a theory that the reason we don't see any other intelligent life forms is they've all descended into the metaverse. They've just invented it, and they've never really bothered going any further. Or they've,
I thought it was the opposite. I thought the Matrix had it right, and
we're already
in the metaverse. It's just that we don't realize it. We are in fact batteries.
We're actually we're theorizing about them, but we're actually there already. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But I think it goes to show as well how many fascinating projects there are out there. The ones that you're described sound really interesting. And I was on a call with someone a few months ago now where we got talking a little bit about some of these things. And they're doing things like linking an NFT, so a token, to a VR experience at a pop concert or a rock concert or whatever. And this whole thing again, and gamifying it. So no longer do you buy a ticket to go to a concert or to hear music, but you're paying to go and immerse yourself in an experience where you become part of a virtual reality concert. But then you can play games within it, and you can go into the VIP lounge, and you can have member benefits. And again, you look at the crypto tokens that are going against that. It's like, wow, this is amazing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of potential, isn't there? I was just, while you were talking, I was just pulled up another one, which is called Omni, which is a social media platform, but it empowers the creators to have full ownership and control over their content. So you actually own everything you put on there, and you can engage to earn social media tokens through this. It's got a lot of competition though in terms of Facebook and all the other ones. So whether how far it will get before they try and stamp on it, I don't know.
So hasn't Omni been going for a while?
I think so.
Because there was a predecessor which seems to have gone quiet, which was Steam It.
Oh, I didn't hear of that one.
Yeah, so Steam came out in, I think it was 2017, 2018. And it was a social media platform. So it was a site to write blogs, in effect. And it was it was one of the first generation ones where you would write a blog, and then people, instead of liking or commenting, would give you micropayment transactions of Steam It coins.
Oh yes, I have heard of it. Yeah. Steam.
Yeah, and that was probably one of the first big social media platforms where you were paid for the contribution you were making. So you were paid if you were writing a blog, that you'd get something like 50% of the revenue or whatever. So they did a revenue split. that seems to have gone quiet of late. There was a whole community of Steemit people.
Oh,
I remember meeting up with some of them in London, and they were getting all excited about how they were writing blogs and it was extending into other things. So again, I think you're right. The social media, people keep talking about flipping it on its head. So at the moment, with the likes of Facebook and that, it's Facebook that own your data, and you are accessing their platform in return for them getting data about you.
yeah.
And then they get to make the money out of that. Whereas if you've got self-sovereign digital identity, where you own the data about you and you get to monetize the data on you, that's a real shift. And Steam, it was certainly one of the things where they were looking at least you get paid yourself for the stuff, and you keep your own data. So it ties in again with the whole Web 3.0 and self-sovereign data, as well as self-sovereign identity. So
Yeah, it looks like a slightly better world, doesn't it?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
It looks like it's heading there. The other good thing as well is that if you end up with self-sovereign data, so you're controlling your content, your production, and you're controlling how you get paid and everything as well, is it also makes it censorship resistant, which is something that until about 18 months ago, I don't think people were particularly worried about censorship and that kind of thing. And then they saw what started happening when people went against the mainstream narrative about COVID and vaccinations and that. And suddenly some well-known people were thrown off Twitter, thrown off YouTube, all this kind of thing, the whole censorship. So if you've got a decentralized social media platform, then again, that's censorship resistant because you can't be thrown off the platform. So that hopefully leads us to a better place, depending upon where you sit in the censorship centralization versus decentralization space.
So I'm all up for decentralized, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it's something, again, we're going back to cryptocurrency. One of the main features of crypto is that with it being decentralized and distributed, it makes it censorship resistant. And again, a number of people said, well, why does it matter that it's censorship resistance? It's like, well, if you're a trucker in Canada and you took part in the recent protests in Canada and the Canadian government froze your bank account, then you'll suddenly realize why censorship resistance is quite important. Yeah, so yeah, it's fascinating how the real world starts interacting, and people suddenly, the light bulb moment goes off and they go, now I understand why censorship resistance is important, or now I understand why decentralization is important, or now I begin to understand why a DAO can be quite good with a community voting on a decision as opposed to a board of directors or something.
Yes, agree. I totally agree.
As I keep saying to people, we live in interesting times, and they're becoming ever more interesting.
And ever more complex, but the complexities are kind of solving some really interesting problems that perhaps people didn't realize they even had. A lot of people don't, they don't think about centralization, do they? Or data, who's got control of their data and how it affects them until these things happen, I guess.
You're right, and I come from a fairly traditional IT world where it used to be the whole, understand what the business requirements are, state them clearly, develop something, and so you always need a requirement and a need before you go and develop a solution. But then you see what happened with the likes of Twitter. I can't find anyone who came along one day and said, what I want is the ability to be able to type 140 characters as a message and broadcast it widely to whoever will listen. No one asked for that. And then Twitter came on the scene, and there's still, I think it's 6 billion messages a day being sent or something.
Yeah.
So, and then you look back even on the internet, at what point did someone say, what we need is the ability to link all these computers together around the world and get them to communicate with each other. No one came up with that, and then the internet just evolved type thing, and now it's critical. So I've got used to the idea that you don't necessarily have a need before you use something, and it's after you use it you go, how did I do without this?
Yeah, like a mobile phone.
yeah. Which is, I mean, do we still call them mobile phones? Or are they just called phones now?
Yeah,
or
phone.
Or in fact, I think they're just called mobiles, because it's very rare that I use my phone to make phone calls. I very rarely make phone calls with a phone. I might do a WhatsApp voice message or Telegram, or I might have a Telegram call or something. Hardly use my phone stuff. So.
Oh right, yeah. Of course, yeah. We don't actually use the mobile phone for calling. It's kind of changed, hasn't it? The communication. It's almost taboo to make a phone. If someone calls you, it almost feels a bit intrusive, doesn't it? Sometimes, like, oh, you're actually calling me.
Well, these days, if I get a phone call coming through and I don't recognise the number, I don't pick it up.
Yeah,
because it's like,
that happened to me the other day, and I happened to be, and I just felt, oh, I'm not going to answer that again unless I know who it is. They'll leave a message.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's fascinating how these things change. And again, nobody said, well, what I want is the ability to make phone conversation calls, but using a messaging application. And yet that's what WhatsApp does, that's what Telegram does, that's what Facebook Messenger does.
Yeah.
You know, or I want the ability to live broadcast an event. So, you know, if we wanted to, we could have done this instead of doing it on Zoom. We could have done it as a Facebook Live, an Instagram Live, a YouTube, whatever. It's like fascinating, all these things that you can do now. So, yeah, I still think that we're still at the beginning of an awful lot of change that's going to happen yet, which is what makes crypto interesting, because crypto, you know, market cap is what, $2 billion, something, sorry, $2 trillion at the moment. I think once adoption continues to grow, it's going to increase massively. So yeah,
it's still at the beginning, isn't it? Very much so. And even finding groups like this, I thought, oh, it's going to be loads about, and you realise how early it is still when you start to look, and it's actually it's quite sparse and trying to figure out, you know. You kind of think it's widespread because you've watched so many videos and read so much about it, and then you actually go look at people in the real world, and there's not that many, is there?
I'm astounded. I set up an ICO meetup group. So I don't know if you've heard of ICOs, but there's a great new way of raising money for a project.
Yeah.
Like you'd launch a crypto token, you'd sell it, you get some money and that kind of thing. And it really took off in 2017. There were billions of dollars being raised through it. And I created an ICO meetup group in London. And so we had people coming along to meetings, that grew and grew. And that group, we've redeveloped it. It's now called Blockchain and Digital Assets Meetup Group. Got over 2,000 members. So it's one of the biggest groups in Europe in that space. But there aren't a lot of others like that, as you say. And this group, you know, this is called the Bucks Crypto Club, because originally I live in Buckinghamshire. So hence Bucks, it's not to do with the money, it's actually, you know, the place. And I set the group up originally in the town I live in, simply to get crypto people together with novices to help explain how to use wallets and that kind of thing. You know, but I'm amazed there aren't a lot more groups, as you say. So yeah, still early days. So it's nice to be able to say, I think this group's been running 3 years, possibly longer. And the Digital Assets Group, I think, has been running 4 years. So yeah, ahead of the curve.
I think I might have joined that one as well. If not, I will be joining it, definitely.
Definitely do, yeah, because hopefully we'll be running some more events soon, either in the physical world or the virtual world. Because that's the other thing. I've become quite used to the idea of doing all this stuff online now. And people keep saying, oh, you're going to have any meetings again? It's like, what, you mean like physical meetings where I actually have to travel and nah, that doesn't appeal. But
Yeah.
I'll run a Zoom event. Yeah, that's easy enough. Something.
Yeah, it's been weird getting used to Zoom. I work from home now anyway, and it's just, you know, after you figure out how to kind of communicate over it, it's got its benefits, doesn't it? Really, a lot of benefits.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of stuff with companies around the world, and to hop onto a Zoom call or a Teams call or a WebEx or a Google Meet or whatever, it's just second nature now.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It means my commute has dropped from, it used to be an hour and 40. Now it's about 5 minutes, which is power computer up, put kettle on, make coffee, start.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely my way of working.
That's really good. For both of you, I'm conscious we're heading towards 8 o'clock. And I always like to run these until 8 and get cut off at that point. Do either of you have any questions or anything further you'd like to share before we finish for the day?
No, it's been really useful. Thank you. Just trying to get soundboards to bounce investment or general advice about crypto before I dive in and lose more money. So it's always helpful to consider things a bit more widely.
Yeah, I think the only other way I can advise you to lose money even faster is some people are into trading bots.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and I think they are a fantastic way of losing money even faster in crypto.
If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't set it up right.
Well, even with the ones who do set them up right, a lot of the time, they don't seem to always work that well. I used to be a member of a couple of groups who were with specific algorithms or specific bots. And it was fascinating sitting back watching that even the experienced people would say occasionally, this has started behaving oddly. So the whole idea that you use it to pick up signals from Twitter, from pricing changes and all this kind of thing, but you build up your own little model of what's going to happen in there. And occasionally it would just behave weirdly. Or a lot of these systems seem to have come from the traditional stocks and shares world.
Yeah.
And the problem is that crypto is just so volatile and is at times illiquid. Whereas share trading, there's always liquidity available, so you can always buy and sell. Whereas sometimes the crypto, the exchanges just stop operating or they run out of stuff to buy and sell in there. So they become illiquid, and the bots just aren't designed to deal with that. So I say to people, if you're really keen in finding new and interesting ways to lose money even faster, then give crypto bots a try, definitely.
Lose money automatically.
Yeah. I do think that trading bots are probably the most efficient way of losing your money quickly.
Thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
But bear in mind, I haven't got the yacht in the Caribbean. I haven't got the airplane. So do ignore everything I say and give it all go. This is not financial advice. Okay. Folks, what I suggest then, hopefully it was something of interest, and for anyone who's watching the video afterwards as well, because it's great to see the YouTube community on this. I've had several people come up to me at conferences and say, oh yeah, I never come onto your call each Sunday, but I do watch the video afterwards. So I've actually had a few people who say they do that. I see from the viewing stats as well. So for anyone who's watching this on YouTube, come and join us in the future. I hope both of you enjoyed this session today. Do come along again next week. Bring questions, bring suggestions, bring ideas. It's all welcome. Hopefully we'll have a few more people next week as well, because the clocks in the UK change next weekend, if I remember correctly. I think it's on the 27th, so it's an hour's change. So maybe it'll be a little bit easier for some people to come and join us from other countries and that as well. So great talking with you both.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
You
Okay, pleasure as always. Bye now.
Bye bye.
So hopefully there was something that you found of interest there, where we ended up talking about the metaverse, talked a little bit about cryptocurrencies, a few of the things that's going on. But certainly the metaverse is a real growth area, really fascinating area. And it's that convergence of cryptocurrencies and gaming, I think is really, really fascinating. So I hope you enjoyed this session. Do click on the subscribe button, do click on like. Even better, come along next week. You know, we hold these sessions every week, Sunday at 7 p.m. It'll be 7 p.m. BST from next week, I think it is. Do come and join us. If you're a novice, come along and ask questions. If you're an expert, come along and show your expertise and experience. So hopefully you found something of interest. Do click on like as well. And importantly, be safe, be careful, and come and join us next time. Have a great day. Bye now.